Well, welcome everyone. Roger Connect, President of Universal Accounting Center, and I'm excited to have with me today Meschelle Peterson. She is someone that I've gotten to know over the last year, and really it's kind of been an interesting experience. She initially had enrolled with Universal Accounting Center in a number of our programs, and as the course of events occurred, it turned out that I had some opportunities to speak with her, and in one occasion spent quite a bit of time discussing her experiences, her practice, and her goals as she's trying to obviously take care of those business clients that she works with. And interestingly enough, I've had the opportunity since then to run into her at some conferences, which we're going to discuss. But the goal today is really to share with you her journey and help you see maybe some of the things that you can relate to as to how she's moved from being just a bookkeeper and accountant to now being a financial strategist for her clients and literally helping them within their firms, their companies rather, be successful and more effective in the decision making. So with no further ado, this is Meschelle Peterson. She's with us today. Meschelle, what would you like to do as you're starting off today? If you could maybe share with us some of your past experience. What got you into the accounting profession?
Well, I don't know what got me into it. Probably because it's what I started out in high school doing, so then I went on to college and kind of kept doing it. But I kind of like accounting, making it all work, financially speaking, and the stories that the numbers tell me. And I'm really good at it. So I stayed with it since high school. So that's a long time ago. A really long time ago. And I've owned a couple of businesses in between there. I've owned I was a partner in an auto parts store, and I owned a flooring store. And most fun was, some people might not think it was so much fun, but I owned 2 cemeteries. And so came back to Colorado after owning those cemeteries and kind of got back into the bookkeeping business. I started kind of thinking I wanted to be a business broker. And that didn't work out so well because it was 2008. And everybody knows what happened in 2008. And there was no money to be made in real estate or commercial real estate in this case. So I went back to the accounting field, and I went to work for a gal as her senior accountant, I guess it would be the title that I held there in that. And she got acquired by a large company, and they did not want all the small companies. And I was working with all the small guys, under 200,000 or 250,000 in revenue. And so I inherited all those in clients. And that's a great way to start your own bookkeeping firm, is to inherit a bunch of clients. So that's how I kind of am here today.
That is beautiful. Now, I have to admit, some of the things that you shared, especially owning some cemeteries, is an intriguing tangent I'd love to go on just to learn a little bit more about it. But let's stay focused on the accounting. Regarding your starting the practice, obviously you had a fortunate opportunity where you had these clients presented to you and ran with it. But I'd like to know, what was it that you were enjoying about the accounting? What did you love about the work you were doing?
So when I worked with the small business guys, that's kind of where I kind of felt like the entrepreneurial side of me came out. Is I was living vicariously through them. And so when I worked for the government. I was an auditor. And so I picked up some side work working for small businesses. And that's kind of where it drew me. I could relate to them. Had that entrepreneurial spirit myself, and I wanted to explore it and see how you could grow your business. And so I think that's when you're in a big thing like the government, there isn't that opportunity. You're on a very micro scope of an account. Like I was responsible for tracking chairs and desks and stuff and make sure it was all costed right and all that. It was really quite boring. But when I got to do some side work, working with small businesses, that to me was really exciting. It was exciting to see how they've started their business. It was exciting to see where their struggles were and how I could help them and identify the leaky buckets, and say, okay, well, your payroll's too high. Let's work on that. Why is your payroll too high? Is it because you're overpaying or people aren't productive enough? Or is it because you just don't have enough revenue? And so we would drill down on that. My favorite tactic is using rent as a fixed expense and seeing if that's a good indicator of how much revenue you should be making. And when people on the other side of the fence, when the entrepreneur hears me talk to them about this, these are things they didn't think about, and their bookkeeper hasn't talked to them about. And I find it really exciting. I had a young couple, and I'm probably going off on stories already, but had a young couple. We had a 3-month plan that kept trying to talk to them about changing the way they're doing things. And it took 3 months for them to kind of come on board with it. They increased their revenue, and they thought it's going to change in January. We just finished their reports, and they increased revenue 347%. And it's like, that's what we're talking about. That, and when they high-fived me, I mean, it doesn't get any better than that.
That is beautiful. Yes. I think you've brought in the personal side of what we're doing here from an accounting perspective. I think so often it's perceived to be the number crunching that you were relating to in the government role that you had. And now you're actually interacting with these entrepreneurs, these business owners who it's very real. It's a tangible thing. And there are failures and successes that you get to experience with them. And I think the story was very apropos. It's a personal relationship that you're getting with each of these clients. Mm-hmm. So I'm going to back you up actually just a little bit here, because I think there's two types of listeners that we traditionally have. And each of these two people, I think, can learn from you. And I'm sure you can give them some insight. So the first person would be that individual who's actually in the process of either considering or has started their practice, and they're just getting started. They may be kind of wondering how to get going, but I'm just kind of curious, what would your advice first be for the person who's at the beginning stages of starting their firm, starting their practice, offering services? Any pieces of advice that you can share with them?
Probably regardless of whether they're starting out or not, just starting out or well down the trip, I would first say learn. And so, it's like every chance you get, I spend probably 20 hours a week just picking up knowledge, just seeking out knowledge, reading books, podcasts, whatever. But starting out, I mean, I think one of the things that tripped me up was what technology is out there. How can I make this as efficient as possible and build my services? Because I think that's where I made that mistake. I've met other people who've made that mistake, but set your price right. Don't be too cheap. And, set that out from the beginning, because it's hard to go back. You'll have clients for 3 to 8 years once you get them in your loop, if you do your job well. Once you get them in the loop, and so it's hard to go back to them and say, oh, by the way, I need to raise my rate. I need to double it. I can no longer do this for $15 an hour. I really should be doing it for $50 to $75 an hour. And I think that was one of the things that I had it was hard for me to charge more, than
that's beautiful.
Then I want to give it away.
So one of the things I heard you address is obviously technology. Technology is key because I think some people are scared of it, and they think that it distracts from their ability to service their clients in the client's eyes. But in reality, the technology is your friend. It helps you be more efficient, it helps you be more productive, helps you actually be more profitable. So you do want to be using the technologies that actually make you better as an accountant, bookkeeper, tax preparer. There are wonderful resources out there. One of the things I enjoy doing is I attend one of the conferences called AccountX, and highly recommend it because it's focused on technology. But the beauty of it is when I go, I always run into a number of our graduates. And when we run into each other, we find that they're leveraging the newest techniques or tools and technologies to help them be more efficient at the work they're providing to their clients. The second thing I love that you brought up was obviously pricing. I think so often there's a lot of people in the early stages that cheapen their services to the point that they're getting clients, but they then later regret the experience as you described. It's kind of hard to go back and ask for them to raise their fees or pay more for the services that you already agreed to provide. So well said, excellent advice. But that brings me to the next thing though. You've got people out there that, like you, have a great deal of experience, have established practices, they're working, they probably have a number of clients, they already have routines and processes and procedures. What would you share about the opportunities that exist today in growing the practice, or maybe offering additional services, or bringing in additional things that they can use to service their clients? And we're going to be talking about a variety of those right now, but just off a big broad brush, what advice would you give to somebody that's like you, that's already up and running and established? What does tomorrow have to offer?
Well, not to expand too fast with staff. I think that's kind of challenging. I've seen where, my predecessor, actually, she was at the Value Builder conference when we were talking, but that was one of her big mistakes. She felt like she added too many people and had too much pressure on the business because there was so many people doing it at such different levels of skills. And so she wasn't delivering the consistent product. So I think you need to have the processes in order before you start adding staff. And so that was one. One of the things I think that I'm embracing right now is variant pricing. So I may do bookkeeping. There's Meschelle who can do bookkeeping pretty good. I can do consulting pretty well. I can kind of keep you on track to your budget, that kind of, CFO kind of work. I can do that pretty well. And I'm okay with charging different rates for that. I don't have to charge a huge rate for my bookkeeping just because I'm skilled in all these other areas. I'm okay with that. So, I do feel like I have 3 different rates. And so depending on what work I do, I think that was okay. It's not necessarily an acceptable way to do it. I see CPAs, they're $120 an hour, or they're $350 an hour, whatever the rate is, no matter what they do. And I'm thinking, I think that brings me different clients. And as I can grow with them, then I can tell them, well, when I do CFO work, it's this rate. And when I do bookkeeping work, it's this rate. And hopefully someday I can transition off that bookkeeping rate to one of my teammates.
Perfect.
Does that answer your question?
It actually does, because I think a lot of times people, as they're growing their firms and so forth, they wonder, what advice would someone else have who's a peer of mine? And obviously you've shared with them, don't grow too quick. One of the things that I do challenge a lot of people with is just managing their growth. And there's some strategies that you can do there to know when to hire the next person, how to actually manage the workflow within the office. There's a variety of things that we can discuss there. But instead of going down that rabbit hole, what I want to do is stay focused with you, because the next question I wanted to ask that I thought you would really be able to offer some insight to is kind of this journey you've recently been on in expanding the services that you're providing, adding additional services to your firm, helping your clients more. And so let's start with Universal Accounting. You obviously enrolled with Universal Accounting. How has, kind of in a broad way, Universal helped you in your practice in the last while?
Okay, so when I found Universal Accounting, I was actually looking for something else, right? I was looking for Value Builder, and you guys came up on my Google search, and so when I talked to Aja, and I found out you had this Profit First stuff and other things. There was I haven't used it so much, but the comp thing where you look at the numbers in the industry.
Oh, yeah.
Is that BizComps? Okay.
Yeah,
so I thought, well, that's all interesting. That would really help me. Those are things I don't have. And I think that would really help me in serving the future clients. And so when I went into Value Builder, when I was talking to Aja, and she was like, okay, here's Value Builder, here's Profit First, here's BizBench, I think is what it is. And then we also have this coach. And like, I rolled my eyes about that. I rolled my eyes about being coached, and it's like, oh, Meschelle does not need a coach. Well, when I got a coach, I didn't realize how much I needed a coach. And it's like, that to me was the little special surprise when you open up the box, and it's like, that changed my life, actually.
So as you've worked with your coach, obviously that's been helpful. And that's one of the things we pride ourselves on here at Universal Accounting, is that each of our graduates is assigned one or more coach to help them implement the various things that they're trying to do within their firm. So in your case, one of the things that you and I had discussed originally is you were excited both about Value Builder and you were getting involved with Profit First. So let's talk about Value Builder for a moment. A lot of accountants, obviously, within their practice, work with their clients, helping them actually with the financial statements, and they see intimately what's going on with the balance sheet and what the company is really worth. And if you take it a step further and look at what's the company doing, or the business owner doing, to impact the value of the company, whether it's increasing its worth or decreasing it through various risks that are instituted within the company. As an accountant, you're kind of right there at the cusp of seeing what's happening, to where you can give advice and influence And the Value Builder program literally trains you to be a consultant and follow a system with your clients to help them address the 8 drivers that determine the value of the business. So here you are, you're now adding to your package, your services, this new thing. How did that actually now evolve? How did that now come into play with your clients and the business that you have?
So one of the big frustrations before Value Builder was that my clients didn't understand anything. They didn't understand, what is this balance sheet that you speak of? What is this income statement that you speak of? It's like, well, that's your business. Hello. But with the Value Builder, when they give you these gauges and they give you a score, and for some reason that just clicks with a lot of entrepreneurs. It just, okay, I see growth potential as an area. I already kind of knew I needed to work on that area. But then you have the whole exercise of putting action steps to it. I love the financial performance piece because that's what I'm skilled at, right? I can go and I can figure out what area on your income statement's off and how we can readjust. But the recurring revenue piece, that is pretty exciting. I hear a lot of people that use Value Builder. There's a thing in there called the price or the value. They give you a number of what your business could be sold for. And a lot of brokers, business brokers don't like that number. And M&A, they don't share that with their client, but I do. And I tell them, hey, Mr. Business Owner, this says that your business can be sold tomorrow for $42,000. And they're like, oh my goodness. And part of it's because of the financial performance, right? They don't make enough money, that it's less than $100,000 on the bottom line. And so when they say, if we can just grow that by 20% or something like that, they start to realize they really have to do something. And I tell them that number that this shows isn't really what your business could be sold for, but it's a metric. We're going to use this metric for the next 1, 2, or 3 years. And so Value Builder has just locked them in to working with me for probably about 3 years on a higher level service.
So let me kind of back up here because I loved how you introduced some of the tools that you're using from Value Builder with your clients. The valuation that you were describing is something we refer to as an initial valuation because it actually does not include things such as the assets or the receivables because it's actually not looking at the balance sheet initially. So the initial valuation is, however, an actual dollar amount that is describing the company's worth. Obviously, everything on the market is subject to what the buyer is willing to pay for it. And you can come down to a variety of things such as location, or the customer database, the CRM that's associated with that business, or maybe obviously the assets or the employees that are available. So there's a lot of things that can determine even further what that valuation can be. But the initial valuation, you're right, it's an excellent metric to help the business owner understand what their company that they've created is really worth. And then as an accountant, because we love these numbers, it gives us something to work on. And one of the 8 drivers that determines the value of the business is, as you indicated, the financial statements, the actual accounting that's going on in the business tell a story. And here you are now offering this as a service to your client. So my question would be to you is, when it comes down to confidence and competence in now moving away from being a historian as an accountant and literally working with your customers as more of a strategic advisor, one, did you feel that you were now able to justify charging more for your services? And did you feel that you were getting more involved with your clients, which builds your retention of them staying on with you?
Right. Well, I definitely think it's added to the retention and to the value that I am to that client. And so I have no problem charging more money when I'm in an advisory capacity versus the historian capacity. I have no problem. What I realized at some point is like, the only way for me to increase my revenue if I didn't do something like this was to work 24 hours a day. It's like, okay, I can't take on enough clients to build to the revenue place that I wanted to be just doing bookkeeping. And that's, with the market competition or whatever, it's like there's not enough clients for me and not enough hours in the day for me to meet that desire of mine. So I knew I had to do my own Value Builder. I had to go and say, what is my growth potential? What is my recurring revenue? And something I think that you guys talk about is bundling services and putting putting a flat rate together instead of an hourly rate. And that has fundamentally changed my revenue stream. and it's so funny because I'm not even sure yet how much to charge. I just keep charging more. So nobody's pushed back yet. So it's like, I should have doubled that. I should have said, okay, I should have come in with, $3,000 a month instead of 1,000 or whatever. And I've had 100% success rate signing people on with this new program. And so I'm going like, I'm not at the right rate, obviously. So I'm still working on that.
I'm so proud of you for sharing that. Yeah, that's commendable. I think a lot of people have this trepidation of taking on a client, and it's that fear of them saying no or being rejected. And here you are saying you've got 100% of the people wanting the services you're offering. And I think that says something about the quality of the services that you're extending to them. It's not just bookkeeping, it's more the strategic advisory service. Now, I'm going to go off on a little tangent here because I thought you just brought up two wonderful things. You are right. In pricing, there are literally three things that we teach. There's the familiar one that everyone's familiar with. It's the billable hour. It's an hourly rate, and there are places for that to be used. There are times that are appropriate to charge clients an hourly fee, and you need to come up with what that rate is. And you earlier shared that you have different rates for different services. It's not just a flat rate. You have rates for either your bookkeeping services or your CFO services or your consultative advisory services. And that's wonderful. But there's also the flat rate. The flat rate's very appropriate. I think it allows you to basically give a set fee that the customer is comfortable with. And your challenge is just to get efficient and good at doing it in less and less time, and therefore you're increasing your hourly rate. And then you have your value-based pricing. And the value-based pricing is really where you have opportunity, because then you're able to determine what the worth of that service is to them. And it's not based on your time, it's based on the value to them as an end product. And there's so much opportunity in there for larger billable hours that you can really excel. So when you have your practice set up that you have these three components being offered, it's just pure success on the horizon. Now, the other thing, though, that I wanted to mention is you were sharing just a moment ago how you're doing these services with your clients that are more advisory. You're definitely getting more into not just preparing reports and presenting them. You're now asking them questions. You're helping them see things that they maybe have not seen or think of things they've not thought of, and getting a new perspective on their own company. So do you have a story or an experience that you could share as to how that relationship has been built with a particular client?
Yeah, I was very intrigued last, I think it was this last Tuesday. I got an inquiry from a guy, and I met him for coffee, and I told him to bring his past 3 years financials and the balance sheets and the income statements. And we sat down at the table, and he goes, "This is the first time I've ever seen these." My eyes got as big as saucers. He's been in business for 10 years. And I'm going, kind of trying not to laugh at him, but thinking, sharing with them, hey, that's why I'm here, and to help you understand that. And he's had the same bookkeeper for a long time. And I thought that was really strange. And he goes, well, I get these every month. So anyway, we were talking, and he does so many different things, and I was really fascinated by him, and it was like I'm sitting there talking to him, so I'm relating to him personally because he has these tangents of life. He's a comedian. He skydives, and he teaches people how to skydive, and then he runs a moving company. And it's like, this is interesting. You run a moving company. And when we were talking about, I've never worked with a moving company before, so I got to get a little bit of industry knowledge of what he does and what drives his revenue. And so we quickly came to what drives his revenue as part of the key pieces. And when I started, I started saying, okay, here's your key revenue pieces. And this one here, this is greater than 15%. This one client is greater than 15%. It's not that I think that you should not work with that client, but we need to build up the other side of the business. And this is just in our first meeting. And so I feel like in my first meeting, I was able, and this is how I think I closed really well, is I give them proof that I know what I'm talking about. And it's like, I can't, it's not a sales call necessarily. It's sort of like you're free whatever. We're having coffee, and I get to know you, and maybe we'll just be friends. Maybe we won't. But this is my opportunity to share something that you didn't know before, and you can take that away and do something good with it, or we can become long-term friends and colleagues, and I can help you. And so when that's the client that I actually upped my rates by $250. And he took it. But I often look at that bundling piece. I said, what are you paying for your bookkeeping now? And if it's ridiculously low, I say, well, that's pretty cheap. And you're probably getting what you're paying for. Or if it's fair, which in this case it was fair, and I said, I'm not trying to take somebody else's bookkeeping away. I will be happy to take that and put that with what I'm offering you, or I can work with your bookkeeper. It's okay. I'm not here to take her business away, and I think her price is fair. If it's too high, I'm going to say you're not getting your money's worth here. They're spending just a few hours a month, and they're charging you thousands of dollars. I think they do a better job. And it may be that they have an ill-equipped bookkeeper. They may have hired somebody off the street and said, that hung a shingle and said, I can do QuickBooks. And so that may be why that price is too high, because they're spending a lot of hours. They don't have a lot of skills.
Yeah.
And so that's, I can tell that as well. So I can tell them where they are with their bookkeeping. And I'm really, it's part of my core is that I don't want to take other people's business away. I'm not there to take, there's plenty of work, but what he wasn't getting, I was also offering. And so I put it as a bundle, and I said, you can have the bookkeeping in here at this price, or you can have it without that and at this price. And he says, okay, I guess I need to send my bookkeeper some flowers. And so I'm going, okay, let's get going. So that's starting at the, next week.
Well, that's a wonderful story of just getting a new client. Now, I'm going to kind of tie this all together with regards to the services you're offering. We've talked about value building. Let's bring up Profit First. And with Profit First, kind of share how Profit First also helps you with your clients.
Okay, so on the Profit First, just in case somebody's out there doesn't know what that is, it's kind of based on the envelope system. And so the client potentially has several envelopes. They have which is bank accounts. They have one for payroll, which is pretty common. A lot of people have a payroll account and a checking account. Then you have other accounts that may be for capital improvements. You could have another account just for taxes. And that's one of the things that Profit First really preaches about is have money set aside for taxes. Don't be spending that. And when the client comes through that channel, to me, that they usually have some sort of problem and they're struggling and they don't know how to fix their business, or they're having cash flow problems probably. And so I already know that, meeting them, they're having some sort of problem that they don't know how to solve. But I typically, on the Profit First thing, I think I've got seven clients through the Profit First.
Wow.
And I have to fix stuff first in their business before they can put too much money into these accounts. And, one of them being the quarterly distribution for their personal profit, make this business worth something. Why are you in business? I think I heard you speak on this really well, is why are you doing this? Are you paying yourself or you should just go get a job? And so that's kind of where that conversation goes. And so I love it when they come in with that. But the real significant change in their life is when I take them through both Profit First, Value Builder, and encompass that with actually, I'm rolling my sleeves up and doing your books as well.
Love it. One of the things that I think is just amazing about what you're doing here is bundling this in such a way that it's not just the accounting that you're doing. You're literally going in and helping the business owner put priorities where they need to be, such as in putting profit first, but you're also helping them build value in their business. So many business owners take pride in what they're creating. They put their equity into the business, their time, their sweat and energy, and they're thinking that they're building something that is so valuable. And in so many of their minds, they think it's worth more than it actually is. And here you are offering a service to literally help them get it to be what they thought it was worth. And that's huge. Now, from a marketing point of view, there's three things that I'd like to break this down, and I'll let you just answer it how you would choose. But offering Profit First services, offering the Value Builder services, How has it either helped you in client acquisition, finding new clients, client retention, or bringing in additional revenue to your practice? You can answer all three, or you could just answer one or two of them. But the point is I'm imagining that these additional services have either helped you market your things better, so that you're getting new clients, you're retaining clients because they see more value from your services, but you're probably also charging more and getting more money from clients than you've done in the past, simply because you're adding new services that they appreciate.
So I think the biggest struggle I had at the beginning in the marketing capacity was I had, I think it was 24 clients at the time. So I had 24 bookkeeping clients. There was the mix was kind of real estate. The marketing, I had kind of a little cluster of marketing people, like website designers and things like that. And then I had a couple of retail people and one construction guy. So I had these clients, and they're really, really super micro businesses. They run the show themselves, probably, most of them. And I had a real trouble convincing them that they needed this. Either they needed Profit First or they needed Value Builder. So I kind of said, well, that's harder than I think it's worth. So I will continue to work with them as a bookkeeping client, and I'm going to try to go gather some additional clients. So because I needed to raise my level of client, they needed to be a little bit higher in their own revenue than the clients that I was, so that they wouldn't feel that it was difficult to pay for the additional services. Mm-hmm. And so I figured at some point these bookkeeping clients are going to grow, and they'll fit into that category where they're going to be ideal candidates for Value Builder. And Profit First, I don't really have anybody that has cash flow problems for themselves. They're pretty good that way. And I really work really hard to help them understand where they are at any given point. Hey, this is going through your bank account. It shouldn't be going through your bank account, that kind of stuff, personal spending, commingling of funds, that kind of stuff. So when I got on board with Profit First, and it took me a while to get on board with Profit First as a really good product. But it is a really good product. And especially now that I understand what it means to a client, because I don't personally have that financial discipline problem. And so it was really hard for me to relate that to clients that are building, widgets or whatever. They're focused on that. They're not focused on their accounting and financially strategizing for growth. And so that when that bell went off, is that they don't have, I'm not them. I just need to focus on what they do and how the value of Profit First. So Profit First has a program where they send you leads, and then you can choose to work with that client or not. And you respond back and you say, yeah, I like the looks of this client. I'll reach out to them. And it's up to you. You do have to reach out to them, or they won't continue to send you leads. So you do have to call them up and try to get an appointment and do that. And so far, 100% of them that I've met with have signed on. But the Universal, I keep going back to Universal because it's right on your head there. The Value Builder program, to me, is the better deal. That's what I get more excited about, because I can see the growth. Like they can triple, they can quadruple in the next 4 or 5 years what they're doing today. And I think because I get so excited about that's really known. And so I'm starting to do workshops with that, putting a couple of those together as my marketing plan is a couple of the 8 pillars together, and saying, okay, here's some tools you can walk away with, and modeling a little bit after your program, because I bring in another strategy partner, like a marketing partner or something like that. So I do kind of do that. I've done them by myself though, and I kind of actually am better at that because I talk too much.
Well, I'm going to
focus on financial performance. So.
A lot of the accountants that I do work with and speak with about the different things that they can offer as services in their package, Profit First, interestingly enough, the accountant, they're generally looking at this through their eyes, and they're saying, well, I understand how money works, and I manage my cash flow well. But when you look at it from, like you said, the client's point of view, profit is king. Profit is something they're struggling with. Cash flow is something that they need help with. And so sometimes I think there's a bias when we look at it through our lens because we maybe have a little bit better financial maturity. And yet when we're out marketing accounting services, when we can emphasize that one of the things that we're offering is their ability to put profit first, I think you get the eyebrows raised and the business owner is intrigued because they're hearing from you, an accountant, something that they may not be hearing from your competition, and you're standing out in your marketing. But you're right. I think that after profit first, the funner engagement, the more exciting opportunity is not just in the profit, but it's literally in building the value of this business, because that's what they get passionate or emboldened by, because they think they're building an asset. Many of these business owners put a lot of their retirement expectations in what they've built as a company. That's perhaps their exit strategy. And whether that be sooner or later is irrelevant. It's still a company that they need to be organizing and building in a way that they can now, with pride, say, this is what I've built. So I love what you shared there. So let's talk about workshops. Now, you coincidentally came out to the Freedom Workshop that we put on for business owners. You came and attended that, which I encourage everyone to do. I'd love to have you come and experience what we do so you can go back home and, like you're offering, a similar type of a workshop. You spoke of having a sponsor, someone else that's bringing people into the room. Let's just kind of go through that. You came out to Salt Lake. What was that experience like for you coming out to Utah and attending the Freedom Workshop then?
Yeah, so I think it was necessary for me to do that as part of something to build my confidence that I could do what you guys were presenting. And so I think that's kind of what my coach and I were talking about, was my confidence that I had the skills, I had the knowledge. I just needed to be okay with how to present that. And so when I went out there and I saw you do it, I said, I could do what you do. And so no, that to me was a pivotal piece of, that's kind of why I went. And then the other reason I went was to see if I could just duplicate the way you presented it, the materials that you presented. And that I changed up quite a bit based on the Value Builders materials. Mm-hmm. But I like to take the audience is, in my case, has been really super small business owners, not bigger business owners. And so where's their first baby step? And most of the time is pretty much just looking at their income statement is their baby step. And so that's kind of been a builder for me as far as my reputation. And people are coming to that and they're saying, oh, Meschelle does a really good presentation on this. And then my follow-up to all of them, is going through the Value Builder score, getting them, they get the Value Builder score at the workshop, but to get in depth with that, hey, we can sit down and talk about that. And so this is sort of a new thing that's starting to now pay off. It took me about 6 months to get that.
Well,
going.
There's two things that I'd like to share is when you are trying to be successful in business, there's two things that determine your ability to be successful. It's confidence and competence. You obviously had the competence to do the work. You knew exactly how to work with these clients and how to service them. But to come to Salt Lake and attend the workshop, you acquired then the confidence to say, I can do this. This makes sense. I've seen it, I've experienced it, and I can duplicate this and take it to my home. And what you've done is obviously done that. And as you do one or two or three of these, your confidence goes up. The value of the workshops and what's been helpful and what Value Builder, I think, enables us to do with the slide deck that's provided and everything else is it now allows you with the business community to be seen as the expert. It puts you in a position where you're now the person that they can turn to and say, okay, Meschelle, she knows exactly what I need. And this is the thing I need in my business. This is what's going to help me take it to the next level. So that's huge. So let me go to coaching, because you brought up coaching a few times. I may be wrong as to who, but I think it's Billy Ann that you're working with over at Profit First. I think you're working with Aaron. Oh, no, actually, I think it's Amy over at Value Builder. And then I think with the Universal Practice Builder, I think you're working with Scott. If I'm mistaken, obviously correct me on who, but what could you share about those coaches? Because you've brought them up on a few occasions already.
Right. So Billy Ann, I think, is a graduate of Universal,
She
I
is.
think.
She is.
And so she's the one that turned me around as far as profit first. And she has a couple of philosophies that I didn't buy into, or not buy into. I didn't engage with that. But she has a program that she does a health check using profit first, and so and she charges a fee for that, and I think that's kind of an interesting idea. But what she brought to my life, or is that comrade, somebody to walk the mile in my shoes kind of thing, and said, here's the problems I have with QuickBooks to profit first, those real technical challenges that I was experiencing with making their tool work. And so she could relate and calm me down to just settle back and learn the program, and then don't say that it has to be the end all to everything. You can customize it to who you don't have to try to pound a square peg in a round hole.
Yeah.
So that was sort of the partnership that we developed. At the Value Builder, it was actually Kim Robertson was my person there. I think it's recently changed to Amy, but I haven't tapped into it recently since that change as a coach. But she got me really keyed up about how to market Value Builder and how to present it to everybody. To everybody you meet. That's kind of interesting because I'm not a real social person, and it's like, what do you do? Well, I used to own cemeteries, and now I do this thing that the financial strategy for small business owners, and learning from my own experiences what needed to happen. So that's sort of where Kim has come in. But the biggest coach would be Scott. That I felt that was the moment where he kind of helped me as a person, and helping me to kind of rephrase how I speak, and what I'm speaking, and how I'm bringing about some of the challenges I was facing. I had a real problem with people paying their bill, and so that I was really frustrated at that time, is because I had clients that weren't paying, and I was like, how come I keep getting these clients that aren't paying the bill? It really frustrates me. And he's like, well, why don't you just say, how come I'm not getting clients that can afford and value my services? Instead of, I was asking the wrong question. And since then, it's been a total different way that I look at the world, and not look at it from the problems, but look at it from the solutions.
That is awesome. I also have a coach and believe strongly in coaching. I think there's something to be said where not only do they ask the right questions for me and anyone receiving coaching to really think differently or think outside of what maybe is going on in their own thought processes, but more importantly, it's the accountability. Here you are, you're telling someone something's important, and they're able to hold you accountable to ensure that you're achieving it or doing it as you intend. So lots of things there, but I liked how in your case with Scott, you shared that there's also questions asked to help you change your mindset or priorities. That's beautiful. Now, with regards to the coaches, Billy Ann, she's amazing. You're right. She is a graduate of ours. She's very familiar with what we're doing. She is a practicing accountant, and working with her, it's a peer. I mean, you've got this peer relationship wherein you're able to speak one-to-one and really get some, I think, incredible insights as to what's really working out there. So and I'm just going to go off onto a tangent. That's, I think, one of the strengths of working with Universal Accounting is the fact that it's not just the teaching of the how, but it's the then teaming up with various coaches who have practical experience. They have their own practices. They know what you're going through. They can relate to you. And working with these people for as much as 12, 18, 24 months, there's definitely an experience and a relationship that happens there. So let me bring this back to you, Meschelle. Obviously, you've got a practice. It's going well. It's growing. You've extended beyond just the accounting services into offering Profit First and Value Builder, and you've shared how that's not only helped you get clients, but better service them and make more money in the process. So what advice would you give to someone that is an accountant who's trying to figure out how they remain relevant with all these technological advances, with the changes where they may see that the accounting is becoming commoditized, at least at the bookkeeping level. How do you become now impassioned and emboldened in your community to become what we call the premier accounting service in the market, becoming a profit and growth expert? What advice would you give?
Well, I think the whole commoditizing of QuickBooks, that's all I use is QuickBooks. I don't use Xero. I don't use any of the other services. So I feel like there's this opportunity, if someone wanted to, a business owner, if they wanted to do their own QuickBooks. Most of the people don't. So I still think, they think that they can, and they don't do it. You can still mess it up pretty good. So they're still going to need you in that capacity. But what you can do is change it around a little bit to get them to be more aware of what QuickBooks can do, and that, hey, did you know this report's available? You can pull this off anytime you want. And so, I go through the report section in QuickBooks when they're online with the client, just to make them feel like they can take some power over their financial knowledge. And then, not only will I help you know more or learn more or understand more about your business financial statements, I have things that you don't have. And the only reason I have things that business owner doesn't have is because I went out and got Value Builder. I went out and got Profit First, and I learned what they have to offer. And then I listen to what problems are out there. You listen to what people are saying by the podcast, or even going on Twitter and seeing what people are griping about in their small business. And then you figure out how can I solve that problem, and then find those people with that problem. So there's, I call it playing business with my nieces and nephews that are getting up there in their 20s. And I say, you should come to Aunt Chelle's house and play business with me. And so I'll show them or talk to them about what a business does and how they make money and different things like that. And I think that's what I would encourage everybody to do, is become more knowledgeable about how to solve bigger problems in the financial position of that business, and not just become the historian.
That is,
and then take a teacher mode with them.
good.
If you like doing that. If you don't like doing that, I know people that don't like talking, they just want to be transactional.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's limiting, but if that's what you want to do, then do that and do it well.
Well said. Well, one of the things that I think is important is to realize that even though, like you were sharing about QuickBooks, and the same can be true for Sage or Xero or FreshBooks, there's definitely a strategy to say to the business owner, hey, you can do your own books here. But in reality, what it turns out to be is that these business owners, as they grow their companies, they don't want to be the accountant for the business. They don't want to be the one doing the transactions and analyzing the reports and trying to figure out what they need to be pulling from the information. And that's what we're paid to do. That's what the accountant, the bookkeeper, the tax preparer is meant to do, is now help them actually understand this information and make better business decisions. Now, the beauty of it is you need to get into that mindset of not being the historian, as you described, but literally taking on more of an advisory role, becoming a trusted strategic advisor, to ask the right questions and basically hold them accountable, but to know what questions to ask and what systems can be used by the client to be more profitable and build value. You go through the programs Profit First and Value Builder, and in turn learn how to actually implement proven systems with your clients and get paid accordingly for that help. So that's wonderful. So Meschelle, you have a wonderful practice there. You've got the clients, you're making great money. You have a wonderful relationship with the people you're working with, in the sense that you are making a difference in their companies. I commend you for that. I'm excited. I'm glad people are hearing this message. I think it's important that they kind of see beyond themselves, that there is success out there and that there's something that they can and should be doing to achieve it. And I'm pleased to know that both Profit First and Value Builder have proven to be a good part of what your packaging is of the services that you offer. So let me just wrap this up. One, a thank you to you for your time. And then as for everyone else listening in, let me just share that as part of this broadcast, if you'd like to, you can do two things. You can go, first of all, to universalbusinessbuilder.com, businessbuilder.com, and there actually take this business score that she was just sharing, see what it is to experience filling out a quick questionnaire about your business to get your own business score and find out really what your business score is, and you'll learn a little bit more about what that score means or says about your company. But that gives you a chance to, for free, go see what that looks like, and we'd love to offer that to you. The second thing I'd like to do is invite you to go to universalaccountingschool.com, and Universal Accounting School happens to be where you can go learn more about the programs that she's been sharing to help you offer additional services in your practice to get paid ultimately what you're worth. We talk about becoming the premier accounting service in your market. We discuss how you can become what's called a profit and growth expert, and I challenge you to consider what it is you can do in your profession to really be the best person in the market, to take care of the clients that you have. Really what it comes down to is when you're offering these types of services, you're going to get referral upon referral because people are going to be pleased as business owners as to how you're different, how you're helping them. So Meschelle, any final words that you would like to offer or give at this point?
Gosh, we've talked about so many things, so I think that's pretty much sums it up. I think that if you feel in your heart that you want to help as opposed to just being transactional. I think there's so many things, so many tricks to QuickBooks or Sage or whatever. There's so many things that we don't know. And I think if you're just constantly saying that, I don't know what I don't know, and you're constantly reaching out to other people and seeing what it is that you can do to offer something better. And Value Builder combined with Profit First is like I don't know. I mean, I think it would take you a couple of years to get all of your clients that you potentially could get with just even those two programs. But just even learn how to restructure a financial statement. I just taught another bookkeeper, listen to what your business owner needs. They need to know their different revenue sources. Don't just call it revenue. And so that's kind of the stuff that takes you to the next level.
That is beautiful. Yes. Take your profession seriously. Become the best in your profession. Be not just an accountant, a historian, and a report advisor, but let's go ahead and take it to that next level where you can become a profit and growth expert offering these additional services. So everyone, thank you for your time. Meschelle, thank you for being with us today. I appreciate your insights and your story. I think you have an amazing thing going on there in Colorado, and I think what you're doing is much needed and appreciated by the clients that you have. So everyone, thank you. Have a wonderful day. And don't forget, go to universalbusinessbuilder.com and also go to Universal Accounting School. Take care and have a wonderful day.